Hey guys, welcome back to another video hypothesizing the future prospects of the Sonic movie series. Today I want to address one of the more popular characters people have been anticipating besides Knuckles the Echidna and Metal Sonic, that being Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, I'm not going to go over who he is in terms of personality since I think most people already know, but I will be talking about his origin story in a bit. Anyway, with Shadow being one of the more recognizable characters in the games, I find it pretty likely that Paramount will try to capitalize on him by introducing him to the world of the Sonic movie. Although personally I believe the second film would be a bit too early to introduce him, since it already has to establish both Tails and Knuckles. Maybe they could tease him in a mid-credits scene just like they did with Tails, but I wouldn't bet on it. Shadow seems like the kind of character who would be saved for the third film at the earliest. And he would have to be the center of a major plot point, as I feel like that would be necessary to justify his inclusion. He's just one of those main event type characters who needs a lot of room to breathe if his introduction is to feel like it's not going to hinder or overcrowd the story. But perhaps the bigger problem would be the need to change his origin story to fit with the film universe. For those who don't know, in the games, Shadow was created 50 years prior to the events of Sonic Adventure 2 by Dr. Eggman's grandfather, Gerald Robotnik, on the Ark. No, not that Ark. Or that one. No, but I really love that show. Bingo!
The first Bernoulli spherical space colony, called ARK.
It's actually called a Bernal spherical space colony, Tails. Anyway, Shadow was the result of a medical research experiment called Project Shadow, which aimed to create the perfect organism, the ultimate life form, to cure Gerald's granddaughter Maria from an autoimmune disease. But when the government believed Gerald's work would do more harm than good, they raided ARK and later covered up its shutdown as an experimental accident. During the raid, Maria tried to protect Shadow, and when she didn't comply with the soldiers, she was killed, but not before she was able to jettison Shadow from Space Colony ARK in a capsule that landed on Earth. The government kept the capsule secure on Prison Island until Eggman broke in and released Shadow to help him take over the world during Sonic Adventure 2. This backstory would later be expanded upon in Shadow's 2005 spin-off game, but that gets into some pretty convoluted stuff, so for now, let's just focus on the basics from Sonic Adventure 2. So far, some of you may be thinking, okay, the movie universe has a lot to explore, so this backstory could easily work, right? Well, surprisingly no, because in its original state, Shadow's origin story and how it involves the Robotnik family would conflict with what we know about Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik. For one thing, think about how he and Sonic first encountered each other. The US government had no way of knowing that Sonic's electromagnetic pulse at the beginning of the film was the result of alien activity, so it would seem like a pretty huge coincidence for Robotnik to go after what he didn't know at the time would be an alien hedgehog, only for us, the audience, to find out in a later film that someone in his family already knew about alien hedgehogs. Even if you were to say, oh, well, they don't ever mention Robotnik's relatives, so maybe he did have a grandfather named Gerald and a cousin named Maria, that wouldn't matter because in the scene where Robotnik is threatening Tom at his doorstep, he says, "Nice, rub that in my orphan face." Also, I feel like the Space Colony ARK thing would be hard to take seriously in the realistic film universe, so I doubt that they would adapt that aspect of Shadow's origin story, or really much from Sonic Adventure 2 at all. So how could Shadow's origin story be rewritten for the film continuity? Well, one popular theory I've heard is that Dr. Robotnik could use Sonic's quill to create him, much like has been speculated with Metal Sonic. As I said, they could tease Shadow in the sequel's mid-credit scene. Maybe Dr. Robotnik is creating him in a stasis capsule, kind of like Adam Warlock in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. If not that, Shadow could originate from Sonic's homeworld, be given his chaos powers somehow, and Robotnik hires him to be part of his evil scheme. Other than that, I don't really know, but I'm about 90 to 95% certain that Shadow's origin will not be tied to Maria Robotnik, and so he would need some other motivation to do what he does in the films. But perhaps more importantly, I don't want the movie version of Shadow to be the edgy character that he's now become in the games. The way Knuckles was described when it was announced a while back that he would be in the sequel seems to keep true to how his character was originally portrayed in the Genesis games and early 3D games like Sonic Adventure 1. So I hope they do the same with Shadow, like how he was portrayed in Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, and heck, even the 2006 game. Yes, I know it's a terrible game, but Really, it should have just been Shadow the Hedgehog 2, because Shadow's story was my favorite thing about it. And that reminds me, if the Sonic Cinematic Universe is going to branch out with spin-off films for certain characters, Shadow should definitely be one of them. I know a lot of people didn't like Shadow's aforementioned spin-off game, but for a sub-series of films, and even disregarding all that convoluted Black Doom stuff, I think there's a whole lot of potential. Oh, and when they introduce Shadow to the films, they have to introduce Rouge the Bat as well. You just can't have one of them without the other. Their friendship in the games is something that would really work well in a movie, and even though I think Rouge is one of those characters who would be introduced in one of Sonic's films first, she would make a great supporting character in a Shadow spin-off. And of course, we can't forget about E123 Omega. Maybe Robotnik builds him at some point in a later film, and seeing the entire Dark Team joining together on the big screen, that would just be so good. And one last thing I want to mention, more about Shadow's role in the films as a whole. Like I said, I don't want him to be edgy and use guns like his 2005 game. And I also don't want Shadow's inclusion in the Sonic Cinematic Universe to be an excuse to include more mature elements that go into PG-13 territory, especially the language. They kept the swear words to a minimum in the first film. The only times I can recall are Robotnik saying hell and Donut Lord getting cut off saying son of a bitch. So I don't want Shadow to say damn like he infamously said about that fourth Chaos Emerald. I think damn is still allowed in some PG films today, but I just think it would really break up the tone of these films. The first one presented itself as being entertaining enough for kids, but also straightforward enough with the world it's set in to appeal to parents and older fans. I'm not saying more swear words and a PG-13 rating would make the films not work, because I'd still go see them even if that were the case. I'm just saying Shadow never needed it before, but that didn't stop Sega, and he doesn't need it going into the films. They can still convey Shadow's darker persona in a way that's appropriate for kids. Sure, Maria's death in the games kind of crossed that line, or at least pushed it to its boundary, but since they're not likely to go with that origin story, as I explained, they can develop Shadow in new and interesting ways for the medium of film. I know the Dark Team has always appealed to those who want something more mature out of the Sonic franchise, and the films could definitely have plenty of opportunities to explore those themes, so I think there can be some compromise to keep the Sonic Cinematic Universe consistent in tone while also staying true to Shadow and the rest of the Dark Team. Anyway, feel free to let me know in the comments when you think we can expect to see Shadow the Hedgehog in the films, and how you think they should change his backstory. Don't forget that you're also welcome to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and doing so will let me know if you want more videos like this. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed, have a nice day, and thank you for your time.